Hello again, this is the Prim Reaper, and this is the second installment in my short video series covering a few lists of feminist issues and why I feel a lot of them may be overblown or inaccurate. I want to stress that I've been doing my best to research these issues fairly, looking at the facts and trying to avoid bias wherever possible. Unfortunately, when it comes to the issues that seem to hold some actual weight, even these subjects are often blown out of proportion or worse. I almost never hear them get talked about in any real capacity, at least not compared with some of the other topics I hear about in mainstream media. For example, when was the last time you heard a feminist talking about sexual trafficking? That is an issue on this list that I think is definitely a legitimate concern. Even the information on this list appears to be questionable, though. It says 20.9 million adults and children are bought and sold worldwide into commercial sexual servitude, forced labor, and bonded labor. 20.9 million adults sold, what, yearly? Ever? 20.9 million tells us nothing without a rate, a time scale, anything like that. It just comes across as a big number meant to scare people. Unfortunately, the source they list for this information leads to a 404 page, but other searches on Google have given wildly different numbers for this kind of criminal activity. One site says that 600 to 800,000 men, women, and children are trafficked each year. Still other sites say that these high numbers involve only people at risk of human trafficking, which is still obviously unfortunate, but nowhere near as dire. The United Nations Global Report on Human Trafficking says that in 2006, 21,400 people from 111 reporting countries were identified as victims of human trafficking. Statistics Canada states that between 2009 and 2014, there were 506 police-reported incidents that involved human trafficking violations. In other countries, this number looks much higher. For example, India in 2006 saw over 25,000 prosecutions related to human trafficking. It's clear that there's a lot of differing reports on the severity of this problem, and to be perfectly fair, it's probably quite difficult to properly compile the information on something like this. But whatever the case, it's a reasonably serious and legitimate issue. So why are we not hearing more about it? Why are we hearing so much more about stupid crap like mansplaining, sexist air conditioning, or the treatment of women in fictional television shows? Why is something as serious as human trafficking on the same list as catcalling and trolling? Not even exaggerating here. Actually, that seems like a pretty good segue. Catcalling. Let's talk about the important feminist issue of catcalling. They even say in their own article, compared to some of these issues on this list, you may be inclined to say catcalling is not a big deal. Roll your eyes and ignore it, you may add. But in November, a man was almost killed for defending his girlfriend against a catcaller. Wait, what the hell? The article this links to describes a situation in which a man and a woman end up passing the same guy making obscene comments 3 times due to unfortunate circumstances, and when the boyfriend decides to confront this charming example of human life, the guy proceeds to stab him 9 times. Damn, maybe rolling your eyes and ignoring it might have been the better option here. Dude, using this crazy horse shit as an example of why catcalling is bad is like using Ted Bundy as an example of why you should never talk to strangers. This is not an example of why catcalling is a problem. This is an example of attempted goddamned murder. Most catcalling incidents involve a truck full of morons shouting obscenities at people as they drive by. This is pretty obviously not your typical example of catcalling, and to try to use something insane like this to push an agenda is pretty darn weak, I'm not gonna lie. The photo that they use under the heading catcalling is a still from that video of that one woman walking through New York for 10 hours. You know, the one that received such lusty and intrusive comments as, "How are you doing? Hey, beautiful," and "God bless, have a good day." A 10-hour video, and the worst offender she could find was a guy that followed along for a few minutes asking for a date or a phone number, which probably would have been solved a lot faster had she been speaking during the video and told him she wasn't interested. I'm not going to pretend like there aren't eager beavers out there who won't take the hint and go away after being told no. But in these cases, it's not hard to think of means of persuading them to get out of your face. Asking other people for help, threatening to call the police, going into a nearby building, anything. Except in extreme cases like the original article used, the guy probably isn't going to attack you. And let's not pretend like a lecture on feminism is going to get a crazy person like that to stop swinging a knife. But with regards to your average, everyday case of catcalling, most of the time it's not that difficult to just brush it off and go on with your day. It feels like blowing it out of proportion, like a lot of feminists do, is making it out to seem a much worse thing than it often actually is. It's the same thing with the issue of trolling. Oh God, won't someone please think of the children? The example they use in this article is the Gamergate thing, which, as far as I knew, was, to put it simply as possible, a backlash against Zoe Quinn sleeping her way to good game reviews and awards for her game Depression Quest. There's some question as to the truth of these claims, but I mean, in and of itself, that doesn't really seem like too much of a controversial thing to me. When I read a review of a game, I expect it to be an accurate reflection of a person's opinion about a game, not inflated because of personal relationships with the game developer, be it sexual, financial, or otherwise. But this whole thing seemed to devolve into accusations of misogyny and sexism, and usually when that happens, the trolls like to come out in full force and show what real misogyny looks like. The way they usually do this is to send a bunch of exaggerated, edgy comments filled with lots of naughty language designed to get as much of a response as possible. I'm not condoning this kind of behavior whatsoever, and in fact, I think that the vast majority of it is childish and unproductive, though I'd be lying if I said that some of it wasn't funny. Now, feminists are often a really easy sort to troll because they often tend to take these comments as seriously as possible and stress out extra hard over death threats or rape threats that are usually pretty obviously attempts to be edgelords to anyone with even the most cursory levels of experience with the internet. Examples like this are what I'm referring to. Kill yourself is a pretty common one. I hope you get raped is another. I mean, I know that slut, whore, slut, whore, fake, bitch, is obviously meant to be a compelling argument. Come on. Now, again, I don't support comments like these. These are exactly what I'm talking about. Trolls trying to use as many bad words as they can think of to try to elicit a response. These examples aren't even trying to be funny or clever about it. But none of these people are serious about any threats they make. I'd be willing to lay down money to bet that most of these people aren't even misogynists. After all, when an angry 13-year-old kid on Call of Duty calls you a faggot, he's not expressing his long-considered, in-depth negative views on homosexuality. He's shouting the first dirty word that comes to mind because he's angry that you keep spawn-killing him. Similarly, these trolls, for the most part, aren't expressing their overall views of women when they call Zoe Quinn or Anita Sarkeesian a bitch. They're trying to rattle the chains of these busybody feminists continually attacking their hobbies. That's it. Now, I'm not saying that some crazy people don't take this too far. Some people actually posted home addresses online and threatened to go to that address and kill them. This is obviously frightening and is in line with a legitimate threat that should be reported to the police. Doxing is never cool, ever. It's a really crappy way of trying to silence someone else. Fortunately, though, like the hack and slash catcaller from before, these people are only a very small subset of trolls, and acting like all trolls are expert ex-Navy snipers waiting just beyond these women's shuttered blinds is needlessly exaggerating the issue. Not to mention, giving them all this additional attention in order to try and stop the problem is kind of like throwing gasoline on a fire. It's not going to accomplish anything. If anything, it'll embolden them and keep them coming back for more of your top keck reactions. This kind of feeds into another issue on the list of feminist concerns: stalking and harassment. Now, as I've already said, I think that doxing people, posting their details online, threatening to go to their house and attack them, and things like that are totally unacceptable forms of behavior, and all pretty securely fall under the category stalking. Stalking is a crime, and with good reason. But where I start to get a little bit hesitant is when we bring up the subject of harassment. The reason I feel this way is because it seems like the word harassment is turning into a rather broad umbrella in feminist circles. Since we're all a big fan of dictionary definitions, let's just look up the definition of harassment. The act or an instance of harassing or disturbing, pestering or troubling repeatedly. Persecution. I personally really like that one word, repeatedly. I think it narrows things down a bit. So using that as a guide, let's run through a few examples of things that are called harassment these days that really aren't. Posting a comment or sending a private message critical of someone's work or views? Not harassment. A wide variety of people hitting the dislike button on a video because they disagree with its message? Not harassment. A coworker made a single offhand comment that you took exception to? Not harassment. Politely expressing a differing opinion at a panel that leads your group to be unfairly kicked out of an expo for massive fucking finger quotes. Harassment? Not harassment. Someone making a dad joke when you ask for their name?
Is that sexual harassment?
I'll give you a hint. No. One of the key elements in harassment involves someone repeatedly going out of their way to pester you. And on the internet, generally speaking, we tend to have this neat little option called the block function, in which you can stop people from sending you messages like this. Or, you can use it to block out all dissenting opinions, whatever maintains the buoyancy of your watercraft. Anyway, I think I'll cut this one here, mainly because I want to get this video out today and my time window is a little smaller than usual. Before I go, I want to give a big shout out to Honey Badger Radio for having me on their show last night, as well as to all the new people interested in my videos as a result. I had a great time, and I'll link that video underneath this one for any interested parties. As for the next video, I'll try my hardest to have something out a bit earlier next week, as I won't have nearly so much art I need to make for it. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope to see you all in the next one.